All right. Okay. It should be working now, but it's one channel. Advanced audio properties. There we go. All right. Both channels. So you should be able to hear me now. Sorry about that. Good morning, Tristan. Where are you from? If it's morning for where you are. It's evening for me in Portland, Oregon. All right, audio fixed. And that was...
Actually, it's going to be super easy, barely an inconvenience.
I've got a soundboard for these streams. And I've got I've been adding things as I go along.
Dogs and cats living together, mass hysteria.
So that's when I'm doing Franken fabrics, when I'm making an EVPN VXLAN fabric with Cisco, Juniper, and Arista. And then that's for I don't know. It's the one from Inception, the Boang. So back to where I was starting from without audio. Is I made some progress today. I didn't stream it, but I've got a problem. My problem is I've got a mess. So look at all this. So I've got all these playbooks that are building different types of configurations. I've got all these templates that are building different types of configurations, and I've got a lot going on. So it is kind of a mess. And one of the things that Ansible has is these things called Ansible roles. And I don't like the name roles for this because I think it's not quite descriptive of what it does. It allows you to hide a bunch of stuff, at least to reduce the complexity. So I'm not staring at all these different playbooks and templates. But I've never configured roles beyond just a couple test cases. So this is my first using roles in Anger. So let's look up the documentation. Based on a known file structure. Okay, so so we're going to do roles. We're going to create a roles directory. And I think I'm going to do two. Do I want to do two different roles? I don't know. Let's make one role just to build the configs. We'll worry about applying them later. But I did actually. Well, I'll show you quickly what I made. So I did IBGP as the underlay. That's something that we don't see a lot in Arista, is using IBGP for an underlay. Instead, we typically use EBGP, but I went ahead and did it. And I even added in the overlay and EVPN services. So it's just a bunch of loops. Pretty complicated. I think I know why people have moved away from Jinja. Is, for example, this section of code right here is nested loops. And it's a way I had to loop through the loopback addresses because I needed to find neighbor statements. So if I'm a leaf, I need all my spines to be neighbors. If I'm a spine, I need all my leaves to be neighbors. And the way that I did it is I started an iteration through all the devices, all leaves and spines. So then if it finds a spine in the inventory hostname that we're working on, then we say if the leaf is in the node, then we do neighbors based off of that. And then if leaf is in the host name, then we go look for spines in our loop. And then we build a neighbor off of that, because if we're a leaf, we want our spines as neighbors. And if we're a spine, we want our leaves as neighbors. So this would allow us to, so basically what this does is it makes a config where our neighbors, so if I'm a leaf for both my underlay and my overlay, so this is IBGP for underlay and overlay. It will use the IP addresses that are appropriate. So here's our peer addresses, our neighbor statements, and then here's our loopback zeros. So we have two different peer groups, one for EVPN, that's the overlay, and then one for underlay, which is remember the underlay is responsible for getting the loopbacks into the routing table. And then on the spines, because it's a route reflector, there's two things we had to add. One was route reflector client, and the next one is next hop self, because our next hop will be the spine itself. If you don't put the next hop self in there, it won't work. Ask me how I know. I had a little trouble with the IBGP because there's not a lot of examples online. But I was able to work it out. But I've got IBGP as the underlay. I've got OSPF unnumbered as the overlay. OSPF. Oh, actually, no, I don't think I did OSPF numbered yet. So I'll have to do that. I need to mark that off my table here. Yeah, it didn't. Okay, it's not marked off. Cool. So, all right, let me check something real quick. So I need to make I need to do something to clean all this stuff up because it's getting out of hand. I'm gonna have like 10. I'll have to have 20 different playbooks because there's a build and a deploy playbook. I'll have to have 10 different templates and then a couple different VARS files. I don't know how many VARS files I'll need. They all can share this one. So this is VRFs and VLANs. And then I did a data model for this. Remember, when we're doing automation, Ansible is, we need a data model because this type of automation is we're taking an abstracted representation of desired configuration state and we are converting it into syntax using a template. So this is our desired configuration state. This VMAC here. One thing that I have noticed that the documentation isn't doing is all the examples that I see for a VMAC, virtual MAC address for the NACast gateway, is they are not specifying 02 as the first octet. It's magical because if you specify 02 as the first octet, it means that this is a locally administered MAC address. So no NIC will ever, or no device will ever have that MAC address burned into it. The one I see used a lot in Arista documentation is 001 Charlie 73, or is it 731 Charlie? I can't remember. Yeah, it's 1 Charlie 73. So that's the MAC address I often see used in the examples. The problem is that this could be burnt into a MAC address. Some device could have that MAC address burnt into it. So if you do this, if the first octet is 02, that means that is a locally administered MAC address. It means nothing will ever have that burnt into it. So that's the one I use. Actually, I'll just do 0000. Okay, so back to our. So this was supposed to be EVP and VXLAN, but this is mostly about Ansible right now. All right, so we're gonna make a make directory roles. And what do we need to do in roles? So roles, defaults, handlers. Okay. So it looks like I need to create a role structure. All right, so I'm going to create a directory called. Do I want to do a different role for build? Yeah. Let's do build cookbook configs. And we'll make, yeah, I think it makes sense to have them separate. We'll see. See how it goes. And I'll create a templates, playbooks, configs. I'll just store them in the normal configs directory. Not going to do it for vars either. So let's do a let's go to playbooks. Build CB configs cookbook. That's what CB stands for. Where's the tasks? I don't think we do playbooks. So created directory called tasks. And what we're doing is we're pairing a data model or various data models with templates. So I don't think we have to. I think we'll declare the data models in the playbook that calls the role. Yeah, so I think we'll do that, and then the tasks. Call this main.yaml. That's the one it wants. Because that's the main one there. We're not going to use handlers, default variables. We're not going to use variables, vars. We'll have them somewhere else. We'll do templates. So we'll put the templates in here. We'll keep them in there. We don't need metadata. I'm drinking wine. It's 7 o'clock, so it's 1 o'clock here. Tristan, if you're here, where are you from? So I'll look at one of my build playbooks. I'll copy that. Put that in there. This is a task though, so I don't need this stuff. So make config with Jinja. Do I want to, how do I call which task I want to do? Because I want to be able to differentiate based on a variable. So maybe I don't want to put it in here. Maybe I want to put in another task called build. And I need to come up with a naming convention because it'll be the underlay and the overlay. Oh, shoot. There's going to be even more permutations. Because if you're going to take one, if it's going to be a good cookbook, I have to include all sorts of different examples, even ones that aren't very likely, because they could show up on a test. I don't think they're going to show up I think some of these are not likely to show up on a test. But still. So talk about possible permutations. So format will be underlay underscore overlay underscore multi-homing, because there's different ways to multi-home. Those are the big options in terms of how you're configuring things. So one of them might be IBGP, EVPN all active, IBGP, EVPN MLAG. Another one might be EBGP, EVPN all active. Just MLAG. EBGP, multi-homing. Then it would be OSPF, IBGP, all active. Let's do all active. OSPF, IBGP, multi-homing. I could do OSPF and EBGP, but I don't think that's a probable. Don't think we're going to do that, because OSPF and IBGP, that would be most likely if a company was moving from Cisco, because that's their default. Oh, crap. Another thing would be another permutation I just thought about. There's another headache is how we do bum frames. Because we can do head-end replication or we can do multicast. So I'm going to table that. We're just going to do head-end replication right now. Cisco tends to do multicast and Arista tends to do head-end replication. So we'll just stick with head-end replication. Called HER. Another one would be ISIS. We do EBGP or if we did ISIS is the underlay. I think that's enough examples at least. MLAG. All right. Jeez, that's enough. We could do OSPF, EBGP all active. Then ISIS, IBGP all active. And then, so that's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. Then you double that for whether or not we're going to do head-end replication or... so 24 different types of config permutations. Potential. I don't think I'm going to do all of them. So... let me do this just to keep track of things that I might want to do later down the road. And if I can, I can do most of these. I can do the ones that are most likely, and that'll be good for the book. Because the people who are buying the book are not going to need all of these permutations. They're going to need the basic ones. And then maybe if the test gets really weird, like if they're taking the L3 exam and it gets really weird, then maybe they'll need something like this. But
If I can do just the main common ones.
Actually, it's going to be super easy, barely an inconvenience.
So maybe that'll that'll do it that way. Let me do this one. And I'll do layout, I'll do this one. So this is head and replication. Must be multicast. So these are all the permutations. I'm going to stick with head and replication initially. Arista is not very fond of the multicast, but it could show up in the test. But we'll just start with head and replication, and we'll do these two. Oops, didn't mean to do that. These two. If I'm going to do ISIS, do I want to do... Yeah, I'll do this. Start with those. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. So that's not too bad. Instead of 24, we're doing 8. And then once I get the role built, then making more roles or more permutations.
Actually, it's going to be super easy, barely an inconvenience.
So we'll see about that. See, when we're building EVP and VXLAN fabrics, we do have to pick an underlay. And honestly, I don't really care what the underlay is, because it doesn't really matter. And what I tell students is, if you spend more than an hour discussing what underlay you're going to use, you've spent too much time on it. Because all it does is get the loopbacks into the routing table. And any routing protocol that will do ECMP and relatively fast routing is fine. And we're going to pair this with BFD mostly anyway. So it'll be fine. So all these permutations are kind of a mess, but I need to do them. So we'll do build IBGP. Need to rename this to be a YAML file. All right, so tasks. All right, so that would be that. And we don't even need tasks. We just need the name. So this is run template with data model. Yeah, so that would be Ansible built-in template. So where's my build? I'll use this one as the, just copy that and paste that. Template. Now this is actually a great example of, thanks. It's a great example of the benefits of, but the upfront costs of automation. Because actually setting up the automation, setting up the playbooks, the roles, the tasks, the data models, all that takes up a lot of time. And I didn't realize how much of how much time of that was going to be spent doing this. But once you get it done, it pays off very handsomely in terms of making your job a lot easier. But it takes a lot of upfront investment and time. So I need to copy a template here. So copy template, go IBGP, all active. I'll copy that into roles.
templates. So this is my new template here. Which is take the template file and then put it into I just need to specify this will be my current directory, roles, so roles, build, configs, templates. Okay, so that should be there. And then we want to put them into IBGP all active. And then we give them the name all active. So we know what the config file is. Okay, so we're encoding what we're doing in here. So we want, so what I want is, actually I want this. I want move roles, build, or I'll just rename it here. So what I'm doing is I'm encoding the underlay, the overlay, and the multi-homing method. So that looks good there. I think, yeah, I like that. Ah, nuts. Yeah, so we're going to do this. Rename. So the bum method, the underlay, the overlay, the multi-homing method. So that's how we're going to encode this. Okay, so and then I have to encode this here. So build, head-end replication, IBGP, IBGP all active. Good. Okay, so then we need to put this in here. So just so we're encoding the intent correctly. So we're going to start with IBGP. We're going to start with head-end replication, IBGP is the underlay, IBGP is the overlay, all active. So I have that in there. Okay. For yeah, head-end replication, IBGP is the underlay, IBGP is the overlay, all active is the multi-homing method. All right. So I like that. So how do I call this? If I do a tag, I think I can do tags. Yeah, we'll do this. So we're only going to execute this task. If the tag that we include when we run this role is HER IBGP, IBGP all active. Okay. All right, I think that looks good. So then I need a playbook to call the role. Build from role.yaml. So So definitely want to include, crap. Because the vars file will depend. The vars file will depend on the which topology we're building. How do I call that? I don't want to put the vars files in the role itself. Because the roles are usually hidden from people. So this is not super easy, barely an inconvenience. So I'll be right back. I'm gonna grab some more wine. All right, refilled my wine and water. That was water. So build from role. How do we do this? That was wine. Why is this not... Oh, weird. Okay. So import roles or roles? I don't know. Roles, okay. That was weird. All right, roles. We'll do Roles is build. My background fell. That's all right. I'll just leave it like that. All right, let's see what. Where are we? Let's pull playbook, build from role. Okay, so that it loaded that fine, and then now it's complaining about main. Task, it didn't like tasks. You know, one of my use task files in a one of my other videos. Was in I was in my class and I did the loops. So live demos. ACI Ansible, yeah, it was tasks. Oh, okay. So I don't need tasks. I need, that's already there. It's already implied. Getting somewhere. Devices is undefined. So build from role. Yes, so we want, all right, so task here would be to, yeah, we're going to, shoot. I want to do, so where do I put this input variable for the template or for the data model? Because the data models are going to be different. So I'm going to rename this data model to HER IBGP. So that's the data model for that. It's in vars. So how do I know? I don't know how to separate this. So I really don't have to do a separate build playbook for every one of these. For all these permutations. I've got 8 so far. Eventually I'll have 24 permutations. I really don't have to create I might have to. All right, I'm going to punt here, and can I do a vars files in here? Take a look at this. I don't know. I'm in uncharted territory for myself here. How do I want to do this? I'm sure this is riveting to watch right now. I'm just sucking down wine and trying to figure out how to accomplish it. There's a couple different ways I could approach this. Some of them may work, some of them may not. So what I'm trying to do, let me do this. I'll do the rubber ducky method. I am trying to create a system that I can quickly build configs for eventually 24 different permutations. The different combinations of EVP and VXLAN configs. So I'm going to do this kind of an ugly way just to get things started here. Sometimes you have to do ugly things to get going. So here's what I'm going to do. I'm going to in the playbook, build from role, I'm going to include each one of these one by one. So this is actually head and replication, IBGP is the underlay, IBGP is the overlay, and all active. So I'm going to put this into the build playbook, build from role. And then, for example, the next one I'm going to do is mlag, but I'm just going to comment it out. This is not a great solution, but it's going to get the ball rolling. And then we can, sometimes we can punt a problem we're going to kick the can and punt the problem down the line and see where the evening takes us. Yeah, I think that's the best approach here. Okay, so let's try that playbook. All right, now I got a new error. Devices as unconfigured. No, so it should have pulled that from here. No, not from here. Oh yeah, I didn't make my data model. So that's under vars. Yeah, so that's actually here. Where's my playbook? Yeah, it's fabric. I just gave it the wrong name. All right, that looks like a different problem. All right, so make directory configs. So we have to have a place to deposit the configs. There we go. Okay, so we built the configs. Should put in a task to make a directory in case it's not already there. Yeah, so let's do that. I'll let's do that. So that's the directory we want. Deposit configs. Full built-in. Is it make directory? Built-in file. I just replace the single quotes with double quotes to keep things consistent. So let's try that again. Okay, could not continue. Couldn't create the directory. Configs. Create two hard links, touch a file. Path. Oh, state directory. Cool. Okay. All right. Could not. Failed to get information from. Do permission denied. Why was the permission denied? Whoa, that is. I don't know what that is. What the heck happened here? All right, so that's okay. But did I not want to do that for the directory? Oh, yeah, I guess I wanted to do a different permissions for the directory. All right, that's better. So if we go to configs, then I've got my, yeah, that looks good. Let's see here. Okay, so I've got the configs and then deploy from role. All right, so then we need DB config. So I need to be able to pass what I'm trying to do. All right, I think my brain is fried. I'm going to give up for tonight. And then we'll get to a point where I can do some better explanations on this, but